Hi everybody, this is Michael Hildebrand and I'm your host on the Sleeptrust podcast, where I'm talking about how to gain back trust in your ability to have a superb sleep again. In this week's episode of the Sleeptrust podcast, we are going to talk about mindfulness. And I know I've announced that we're going to talk about the law of attraction today, and I did record the episode yesterday, but after ending the sleep triathlon, I thought it would just be the right fit to talk about mindfulness because this was one of the takeaways that I had from a Lucid Dream retreat that I visited just recently. And the guy who gave this retreat is Charlie Morley, somebody that I had an interview with at the beginning of this year. And he's a really lovely guy. He's into stuff like mindfulness, lucid dreaming, and shadow work. And the value that I got out of this retreat is just unbelievable. So I had to share this with you right away before memories start to fade out. And today we're going to talk about mindfulness. And next week we are actually going to talk about lucid dreaming in regards to how to cope with nightmares. So if that's something that resonates to you or that you know somebody has problems with nightmares, feel free to share this information with them, and maybe he or she might want to listen to next week's podcast too. And as you're used to right now, the information you're going to get here is accurate, but we're not going to overdo it in regards to getting too sophisticated about it. And other than that, it's also my personal opinion that I give you here. So you might have a different opinion on this or know people who have different opinions, and that's fine. So let's start off. Before we dig into mindfulness, I have to tell you about the retreat, because the retreat setting itself was kind of mindful or supporting this mindfulness experience, and I did not have a clue what I was going to. I thought it was kind of a workshop thing where we would learn to lucid dream, and this was basically why I went there, to learn how to lucid dream, to prove and experience how this works before I recommend stuff like this. So I was completely blown away by the environment. This workshop or the retreat took place on an isle in Scotland, which is called the Holy Isle. And this place is truly magical. So you really have to take your time here. It's going to an island called Arran. And from there on, you have to move on the island with a bus or a taxi to a small harbor where the little boats are going to leave in direction of the Holy Isle. But there's no accurate timetable or anything. You just have to hit the harbor and hope that the weather and the tide and everything is okay so that somebody will eventually take you to that Holy Isle. For me, that worked fine. I took plenty of time with myself. And it was just wonderful. I asked for a ticket and he said, man, just sit down. It's not like if you're on an airplane here, you'll know when the boat is there, and there'll be plenty enough of time to get that ticket when the boat arrives. So what happened to me was, of course, that the boat arrived at some point. I did not have a ticket and nobody was in that little ticket house to sell me one. I was honest enough to tell him and bought one afterwards, but they wouldn't even have checked, so I could have jumped onto that boat and they would have taken me to the Holy Isle for free, basically. This is just, to give you a little feeling of this setup. And as soon as you arrive at this Holy Isle and put your foot on the ground, you can just feel that there's a different kind of energy going on this place. So what you will then see is untouched nature. There's a hill on this island that you can even walk up. It takes about a good hour if you're walking fast. I did that on day 3. And you find all kinds of wild animals on the island. So there are wild horses running around. There are sheep and goats and birds, of course, all kinds of birds. So it's just this wonderful, peaceful place that when you arrive, you just feel that, time is getting relative, so to speak. And it's run by Tibetan Buddhism at the moment. and they really take care of the place. They're very respectful when it comes to animals, as they believe in rebirth, and very respectful when it comes to plants. And I think Buddhisms are probably, generally speaking, more mindful than we are used to in our Western kind of culture. They're very focused on being quiet and humble, and they've got plenty of meditation practices that support mindfulness too. And one thing really dawned on me. You are in a schedule that Charlie set up over the period of 4 to 5 days, it was, where it starts at 8 a.m. with a breakfast, a mindfulness breakfast. You're not supposed to talk. So it's a lot of thinking going on. And there are things that you or I learned about lucid dreaming, and they kind of went hand in hand with meditations. And this went over the course of the day. And even at nighttime, at 3:30 a.m., we met, at least most of us met, in this big Buddhist room where we went to sleep again. Charlie woke us up every 1.5 hours. We were supposed to write down our dreams and so on till 8 o'clock, and it was time to breakfast again. So you're in this environment where you do nothing else than sleep, write down your dreams, which are basically the thoughts of your unconscious, and where you meditate constantly. And this is set up if you push away things, as I had things that I wanted to push away for this seminar in particular, to have my head 3, to get that, knowledge out of it. You're just not able to do so because things will pop up in your mind, and literally they'll scream at you and yell at you and say, take care of me. I am here for a reason, and I want you to pay attention to this right now. And this is what mindfulness is all about for me. We're going down, we're getting into a relaxed state of mind. We are focusing on being. I'll go through a meditation technique that you can use easily in just a minute from now. But for now, let's just focus on the mindfulness aspect. And you would not judge thoughts or hold thoughts. You would just let stuff pass by and kind of get a feeling about yourself, where you are, and what you should take care of. Maybe you'll even get an inspired thought of what to do. But what you definitely cannot do and should not do is to push it away. And this is the part where it really dawned on me how important this really is, because how often do we get distracted? We know there is something, we push it away, and if that's not enough, we just turn on our TVs, we switch into social media, we have a phone call, we get in touch, we have a party, we do what the hell is necessary to not have to take care about that issue that may be there. And what happens in regards to sleep is that at some point, of course, we want to go to sleep, and these things pop up. They may pop up before we go to sleep and prevent us from falling asleep at least as fast as we could and should. They may also show up in our dreams, gifting us with nightmares. And this gifting us is meant honestly because it's a present that we can benefit from. We'll come to that next week when we're going to talk about nightmares, how to handle nightmares, and how lucid dreaming is absolutely the number one method I will now, after this retreat, recommend to everybody to try. If you have recurring nightmares that you think are just horrible for you, lucid dreaming will be the number one technique that you want to give it a try before you do anything else, basically. So at least that's, my comeback is my personal opinion, of course. There are lots of stuff that you can do, and maybe there is also stuff that suits you better. But lucid dreaming is just a powerful technique to handle this. Yeah, if you have nightmares right now, if you know somebody, definitely let them check out next week's episode where we're going to talk in detail what lucid dreams can do for you in this regards. But bringing our focus back to the mindfulness aspect, so being mindful is not solving your problems, but it does give your brain, your mind, the ability to separate yourself from things that are going on, because you are not your thoughts, you are not your problems. You are a perfect human being just the way you are, and get aware that these things are kind of going on in your scope. And that distance will maybe make it easier for you to recognize that there are appropriate steps that you can and should take to tackle these things. This may be something like a meditation, a forgiveness meditation, or something similar. This may also be just grabbing your phone, giving somebody a phone call that you want to say, I'm sorry. This could also be simply meeting up with somebody that you didn't see for quite a long time. This could be to have a journey for yourself, with other people. So something that you feel is in yourself and that you didn't take care of, just to speak quite general here. So mindfulness is the first thing for me to, first of all, value yourself as a perfect human being, as you are, and get aware of what is going on to be able to kind of handle these things that you were possibly pushing away. And we all do stuff like that, push stuff away. But, at least the things that we know that we're pushing away, we kind of have in mind. But coming to my own experience, there are also things that we are not really aware that we're doing them. We're kind of keeping them in these little boxes, rather switching on our TV or doing work or whatever it is for you. It may also be sleeping. So people could also go to sleep more than would be good for them, just to kind of escape into this other place. So that's taking a complete different approach. But for me, I think the most people that I experience and talk with actually have sleeping problems if they push away too much stuff. So getting mindful about this is the first step to get aware that you are perfect and what's going on actually. And there are a couple of techniques that are really easy that you can start right away. You don't even have to stop the podcast to start doing so. They're so simple. So I'll introduce you to two. The first, many of you already know because I did it a while ago. It's just a breathing technique to basically focus on your breath and breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. And during you doing this, you will calm down. You will try to keep 4 to 5 breaths in 1 minute. So our breathing is slowing down. And it doesn't really matter if you breathe in through your nose or your mouth. You just do what suits you best. I find for this exercise, find it's more helpful for me to breathe in through my nose and out through my mouth, but you might as well do it the other way around, or breathe in through your mouth and out through your mouth. It doesn't really matter, or use your nose for everything. The second technique that you can also practice, and that is also very powerful, is a body scan. So you would typically also begin with a couple of deep breaths where you just concentrate and focus on really calm breathing in and breathing out. And then during your breathing sessions, you would start to let your focus wander to your feet and just feel into your feet, how they're feeling. Is there anything tense in your toes or anywhere in your feet? and get your feet a couple of seconds to respond. And maybe if you feel tension somewhere, just be aware of it. Don't try to change anything. Just be aware that it is. If you can get into a little bit more relaxing state, just do that during the meditation. And slowly wander up, your bottom legs. Then you would go up to your knees, to your legs, and just wander up your whole body and take your time doing so. Don't rush around. Be mindful about your body. Be mindful about yourself. And if thoughts come up, the same as with the simple breathing technique, just let them pass by. It's fine. Just be aware that they're there. Say thank you. Let them pass by, and bring your focus back to the body part that you kind of noticed your focus leaving again to the thoughts. And that way, you will build up your awareness, you will build up your mindfulness, and over time, you will build up a capability to really get mindful about yourself and get this distance about your spiritual you and the things that you are involved in. And that way you will evolve and level up your abilities to handle these situations, and that will eventually lead you to a better sleep if these are things, and I know for many of us these are things that are kind of keeping us from falling asleep or even bringing us nightmares. But particularly the first thing, not being able to fall asleep, these are things that can really help you as a starting base to give you that little distance to be able to handle these things and eventually be able to fall asleep much better and have that superb sleep that you deserve to have, that I wish for you to have, and that I know that you can and will have in future again. And if you are a person that has problems to step into meditation practices or mindfulness practices on your own, then maybe just consider visiting a retreat like I did. And if you're able to attend at one of Charlie's retreats, I can 100% recommend going there. If you're able to visit the Holy Isle, that would be awesome. And I'm not getting money. I paid the seminar on my own. I'm not getting money for recommending this. This is my honest opinion on this seminar, and I've seen a couple of them, so he's somebody that I can recommend without any nuts and bolts attached, and it's something that is definitely worth doing regardless if you have sleep problems or not. And with that, let's wrap up this week's episode of the Sleeptrust podcast. Nowadays, it is easy to get distracted about what's really going on in our lives through TVs, social media, and everything else that is kind of happening around us. Mindfulness is a powerful tool to get aware of these things and give us that extra distance between our perfect spiritual self and the problems and challenges that may be going on at the moment in our lives. Practicing mindfulness will not only give us a distance between us, ourselves, and the problems, but also position us best to take action and change things for the better. To practice mindfulness, there are two easy techniques that you can use right now, which are the breathing technique and the body scan method. And if you're somebody who's having a hard time to get into these meditations on your own, or you are just in an environment that does not support mindfulness at the moment, then consider visiting a mindfulness retreat that will help you to do so. And that's it for this week's episode of the Sleeptrust podcast. I hope you enjoyed yourself and that mindfulness will help you to sleep even better, and that you tune in next week when we're going to talk about the shadow warrior, how lucid dreams can help you to embrace your nightmares. Until then, have a superb sleep. Hey there, and thanks for listening to the Sleeptrust podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you want to get further information on this podcast or material that will help you to gain back your sleep trust, please check out sleeptrust.eu. That's sleeptrust.eu, where you will get lots of information around sleep. And here comes some legal stuff. Everything on this podcast is my opinion only, so do not take it as an advice, as I am not a doctor, nor have I considered your personal situation. If you feel that you need medical advice, please consider getting an appointment at your doctor of trust. If you want to give me any kind of feedback on this podcast, feel free to email me at podcast@sleeptrust.eu. I hope you tune in again next week, and until then, have a good sleep.